Call the Ellis County Commission meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Donna, please call the roll.
Commissioner Butch Schleier.
I'm present.
Chair Dean Hazelhorst.
Present.
Commissioner Destin Roth.
Present.
We have a quorum present.
Thank you. Any changes to the order of business this evening, Commissioners? Phil, any executive sessions? No. Prior minutes, we have one, July 1st, if my fellow commissioners have had a chance to review, which says yes.
Yeah, everything looked fine on that.
Stand approved as presented, Donna. We do not have July 8th. Consent agenda, I need a motion to approve items A through G.
I'll make a motion. We approve consent agenda items A through G as presented.
Second that.
Donna, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. Issues from persons not on the order of business this evening. Do we have anyone? Neil, please come forward. Tell us who you are.
Neil Younger, representing CFLE. We had our monthly meeting last week. I told them I'd come and thank you guys all for being generous and helping us out. So, big thank you for you guys.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you, Neil.
Any questions, commissioners, for Neil?
No.
Thank you. Monthly financial report. Have my fellow commissioners looked over that?
No problems.
Any questions? No, Butch?
No.
Dustin, any?
Yeah, no problems.
Okay. And monthly departmental reports, nice packet again as always, very thorough.
Very thorough. I was really impressed as I read through that.
A lot of
And
information.
a lot of information, and I think our department heads and employees are just doing an excellent job.
Any questions on it, Dustin, or not? No?
Yeah, no questions. It was very thorough. It's nice to see the ins and outs of what we're doing as a county and seeing where we're busy and where some places where hopefully we're not busy.
Yeah, that was, like I say, as always, very thorough since, I don't know when that started, over a year ago, I believe, when Phil met with all the department heads and started that, and it's just been great information ever since. So thank you, department heads and Phil. Move on to what everyone's here for, is the 2018 audit presentation by Melissa Romey. And Jamie, I won't butcher your last name.
We're going to co-present here tonight, and it's Jamie Benachek, just for the record.
There you go. Thank you very much.
I'm going to have you guys, we're going to do it a little bit differently, I think, this evening. We're going to have you open up the governance letter first, and just want to run through this. And again, I see maybe a couple new faces to the audit presentation. So the governance letter, it came about just so that you realize what we visit with your management about. That way you as a board are aware of it. And again, as you're making decisions, you should be aware of a few of these items. And one of it is like, what type of accounting practices do you have? You have the regulatory basis of accounting, which means that you do cash receipts, and then you have expenditures, which equals disbursements plus accounts payable plus encumbrances. So any time that you approve a contract here at the meeting, that's an encumbrance because you've obligated those funds, whether you pay that item out by December 31st. And so you properly recorded all transactions on the basis of accounting that you have. We had no difficulties encountered while performing the audit. We have no corrected and uncorrected misstatements that you need to be aware of. We had no disagreements with management, meaning if we asked them a question, they were able to present an answer to us in a very timely manner, not meaning that they made us wait until the minute before we came down here to deliver it. Management representation letter. You guys always sign a management representation letter telling us if there's anything that we would need to be aware of from a financial statement perspective. There are a couple other matters that we did visit with management about, and one of those was when we were doing the bank reconciliations, we noticed that the solid waste fund had made properly a deposit by December 31st. Unfortunately, that information was not passed along to the treasurer's office, and so they were not able to get it into the December 31st year end. And so that was one of our reconciling items that we had to post back to your books or record to your books as of December 31st. Another item is that the clerk of the district court has undergone some changes within their department and are still probably undergoing some changes with the state. But basically, they were having some time lags in getting the money turned over to the county. And I know that there's some checks that should be clearing here with the county treasurer, and so they're on the process of working with that. So we do believe that they're getting that corrected. And then during the review of the health department, it was noted that during January of 2019, we sometimes do unexpected procedures. So we took a look when deposits were remitted back into the county, and we noticed from December 31st, it wasn't until January 21st that deposits from the health department were brought back over. In the past, you usually do it each week, and so again, we encourage, at least if not every day, that you bring over to and deposit with the treasurer at least weekly. Are there any questions?
I have none, Melissa.
No, I have none.
All right, moving on over, we're going to have you open up the audit report. And in the audit report, the first 3 pages, pages 1, 2, and 3, are basically what we call the independent auditor's report. Again, that is just what I had stated previously, is that those are there's a regulatory basis financial statements. And so you have an unmodified opinion. And in accounting terminology, unmodified is good. If you would have had a modified opinion, just like it sounds, we would have had to modify it for something, and that's not so very well, and adverse is not good. But you have an unmodified opinion. Flipping over to page 4 then, Jamie's going to go over your unencumbered cash balances at the end of the year.
Yes, so on page 4, this is a summary of all of your funds. On the very left side, you will see your beginning unencumbered cash, then we add in your receipts and subtract out your expenditures to get your ending unencumbered cash. A couple of funds I wanted to draw your attention to was, first is the general fund, it's at the very top. And you'll see you started the year with $4,854,373, and you ended the year with $3,819,000. So that is a decrease of $1,035,000. In most recent years, we've seen a decline in the general fund, and this year was no different. So a little over $1 million decline in the general fund. The next 2 funds are about 6 or 7 lines down. It's the capital improvement reserve and the capital equipment reserve. Both of those funds actually increased during the year, which is great. $280,000 for the improvement reserve and about $570,000 for the equipment reserve. These are the reserve funds that you're going to pay for those big purchases or improvements from. So right now, we actually recommend a 10 to 20 year improvement plan, and these are the funds that are going to help pay for those. And 10 to 20 years might seem extreme, but there's a reason for it. It's called the tax lid. I don't know if you've heard of it. Melissa is going to explain a little bit more about the tax lid.
You know, a few years ago, we had the conversation with you guys, and the question always becomes, what is the optimal unencumbered cash balance that you should have? Well, probably 4 or 5 years ago, before the tax lid came into play, it would be 3 to 6 months of operating expenses. But with the tax lid coming into play, a few things have changed. And I am sure that Phil has went over this extensively with you, but the tax lid really does change everything that you do. As you're looking at it, one of the biggest changes is that the capital leases, any capital lease you entered into after July 1st of 2016, you're taking away from your operating expenditures in order to retire that capital lease. So again, as Jamie had indicated, is the capital improvement fund or the capital equipment fund, is it where it needs to be? Well, the only people that can answer that question are the people up here at the table, because you really need the 10 to 20 year plan to tell you, well, what is going to be needed. You know, do you need a new air conditioning unit or a heater system or whatever you use in the building? Those can be kind of pricey. So some would say, well, that's fine, you could go out and get a capital lease. And that's true, but if you're making a $100,000 lease payment, then you're taking away $100,000 from your operating expenses. And so again, just as you look, I mean, it looks like fund balances are okay. If you take a look, you know, your general fund has decreased. A few years ago, it was a little bit higher, but again, by design, that had went down. But again, just as you continue to make decisions, the tax lid will impact with the future. Are there any questions, or? We're going to flip on back then to a couple other pages. We're going to go to page 11.
About halfway down, you'll see note 8, stewardship, compliance, and accountability. There was one statute violation this year. It reads expenditures exceeded available monies in the return checks fund by $286, which is a violation of KSA 10-1113. This is just kind of what it sounds like, the return checks fund. When a check is bounced or hot check, this is where that check sits until cash is received for it. And so it was negative at the end of the year, which means you hadn't received the money for that return check yet. It's not uncommon to have this here. You actually had it last year as well. So there's not a whole lot you can do about it. And then page 15, please. And this page just summarizes your debt. So about halfway down, you'll see the total contractual indebtedness of the county was $3,781,000. You'll also note that during the year, 3 of your capital leases were paid off. So the energy performance lease was actually paid off early. And then your Flex Financial plus the 2013 Bond B was also paid off during the year. And when I say year, I'm talking about 2018. We get confused sometimes. And then down below, you'll see the capital leases for your related municipal entities. And you'll notice that the top 3 there, those have all either already been paid off in 2019 or they're going to be paid off next year. So within a year's time, you'll only have one capital lease from your related municipal entities. Any questions?
Commissioners? Dustin or Butch?
No, nothing for me.
Well, since there are no questions, that was all we were going to present in the audit report. Again, when you are making your financial decisions, you're making them on accurate financial information that you're receiving from your county administrator. And that's something that, as a commission, you should be concerned about, and so that obligation was met. We would at some point ask that you do approve the audit report, because it does get filed with the Kansas Division of Accounts and Reports. We also wanted to thank your management and staff for all the time and effort that they put into helping us out. We do appreciate that. And everyone was very willing to answer any question that we had, so thank you.
No questions then, guys?
No questions?
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Commissioners, if you have no questions, I'd like a motion to approve the audit report, please.
I'd make a motion, we approve the audit report.
I second that motion.
Donna, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Moving on to the Planning Commission appointment. Mason Reuter.
Good evening, Commissioners. Environmental Planning Supervisor Mason Reuter. Back on June 10th, I brought to your attention some expiring terms for our Joint Planning Commission. At that meeting, you reappointed Dave McDaniel, and then we had opened up to the public any interested people, or if you had any nominations yourselves, to bring forward. As of this afternoon, I was unaware of anybody else besides Mr. Neil Younger of Munger, who had applied. So this time we're requesting to fill the position with an appointment you have before the next meeting, July 24th, and we'll get him sworn in before then.
Thank you. Any questions, guys, for?
No questions.
No? This time I'd ask for a motion to approve Neil Younger to serve on the Planning Commission.
I move that the commission appoint Neil Younger to a 3-year term expiring June 20th, 2022 to the Joint Planning Commission.
I'll second that motion.
Donna, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Neil. Moving on, bids on the EIFS at the Law Enforcement Center, County Administrator Philip Smith-Haynes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The rest of this evening, sort of the Phil show for a bit here. So the first item I have to present to the Commission this evening, we did receive 3 bids to replace the EFIS, which is essentially the stucco on the second floor at the Law Enforcement Center. Commissioners may recall we had brought this to your attention due to some water intrusion. The bids were extraordinarily tight. There was a total of $250 difference between all 3 of the bids from 3 local contractors. They're all contractors staff's familiar with and happy with, and so we would recommend that you go with the low bid from RDH, and I'd be happy to answer questions.
Pretty self-explanatory. I had none, but.
Yep, Phil, I have a question. Should this have been done at the time they remodeled that building?
That's an excellent question. We didn't do a lot of work to the exteriors of the buildings. They mainly focused on the interiors of the buildings, so I don't know that anybody really looked at the stucco at that time. As you know, the Courthouse Preservation Committee stepped up to do some of the exterior work on the courthouse side, but on the LEC side, it was something that really, if there hadn't been discoloration, we probably wouldn't have noticed.
Sure.
Yeah, we didn't have any water intrusion at that time when it was remodeled. And they did do some right around the edges where they joined them, together, but that was really the only area.
Mm-hmm.
And the roof, jail got a new roof. Well, they did all that time. Air conditioning units and everything they had to do there. Dustin, any questions?
The contractor's confident that fixing the stucco and will stop the water intrusion, that they figured out the issue with the water intrusion.
Yeah, we had, we're not just relying on the contractors. We had the architect come in and design a solution. He actually added an additional piece of metal beyond what the contractors had recommended, which is what drove the bids up a little bit beyond his architectural estimate.
Okay.
And this is the same surface that was applied at 601 Main to stop water intrusion there. So.
Anything else, Dustin?
And this will be paid for by the sales tax income that we had brought in. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, this is from the balance in Fund 129, and as you can see, there's current unencumbered cash of $883,000 in there. So.
Okay.
I'd ask for a motion to approve.
I move that the commission award the contract for the new EIFS at the Law Enforcement Center to RDH Electric and Construction in the amount of $77,150.
I'll second the motion.
Donna, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion, commissioners? None? All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you. So the next item I am presenting on behalf of our county councilor, Mr. Jeter, and it is a request for authorization for the county councilor to institute an action in the District Court of Ellis County for delinquent real estate taxes. And if it seems like we just got done doing this, you're right, but it's time to start the process all over again. There are currently 27 properties that show delinquent taxes, penalty, and interest in the amount of $125,596.79. So the Treasury and the Counselor would ask that you institute that process by adopting Resolution 2019-09, and I will be happy to answer questions.
Any questions for County Administrator?
No, I don't have any, Phil.
Dustin, none? If not, I'd ask for a motion to approve.
I move that the commission adopt resolution number 2019-09, authorizing and directing the county councilor to initiate tax foreclosure sales proceedings.
Do we have a second?
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. No further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you again. So this is probably the biggie of my items for this evening, presentation of the Ellis County budget proposal for 2020. As I mentioned to Commissioner Rhodes earlier, I'm not sure what exactly to say about this because it seems like we've sort of said it all. We've been working on the budget for 2020 literally since last summer, and first discussed this with the current commission at your second meeting as a commission on January 21st. We have had a number of different meetings involving departments, outside agencies, as well as updates to your commission about where we are in the process and what the impacts of various budget proposals would be on our long-term financial plan. I will note that the budget as presented tonight brings us in under the tax levy limit of the tax lid by a whopping $800. And also brings us below the publication limit for Fire District Number 1. The budget is presented in a couple of different formats. It's presented in the county's line item format. There are some notes to the side of those lines which talk about various changes. You've seen that format a number of times before in the process. We've also included a sheet that just details the outside agency allocations, and then the budget is presented as per the state budget forms. So there are about 29 or 30 pages of state required forms. This is what we are required to submit to the State Department of Administration every year in December. So we present that as well. I've been over the forms, so the state forms line up with our forms. Everything is, the numbers are all the same. And then finally, I've also included the capital budget as well. You just heard our auditors say that they think we should do a 10 to 20 year look ahead at capital. Right now, we've been doing a 5-year look ahead. I mean, we can certainly investigate going out to a 10-year look ahead. Next year, there's actually that's actually a pretty decent idea in terms of our buildings in particular. We have a lot of data that's in our automated system, what we call Facility Dude, which tracks building maintenance requests. And that system is actually going away September 1st as one of the budget reductions on the operating side and buildings and grounds department. So downloading all of that data before it goes away and presenting it in a 20-year plan is a good idea. So we will work on that. I've sort of rambled on a lot after saying I wasn't going to, so I will stop talking and be happy to answer questions. There are also a number of department heads here in the audience this evening if commissioners have further questions, but the budget is aligned with the priorities you've previously articulated, and ask for your permission to go forward and publish it and hold a public hearing on August 12th.
Dustin, any questions for Phil?
No, I think I would just, express my gratitude to you guys on going through this and being civil with each other about what we thought needed to be done through some tough decisions. I think that we made this sting as little as possible throughout the county, and so I really appreciate the civility of dealing with you guys and coming to agreements on things relatively easy, and when we didn't come to agreements on things easily, we at least took the time to talk it out and yep, and compromise on it. So I appreciate that, and I have no problems with go ahead and publishing and holding the hearing.
Thank you. Butch, any comment?
Just comments I have, I do have regrets. We had to cut some of the budgets the way we had to cut, but then that's just the nature of the beast this year, and it isn't looking good for next year either. It is noted in here that we did decrease our mills by just almost a half a mil, which I thought that was kind of incredible too. So with that, I guess it meets my approval.
I mean, I'm kind of like you too, Butch. And Dustin also, I hated cutting some of these. As you guys know, some of them was pretty tough. I did have a lot of calls this past week from area farmers. I don't know if my fellow commissioners got any calls, but I got quite a few. Most of them concerned with Sandy's presentation 1 week ago or 2 weeks ago. Especially on the cost share program that affects a lot of farmers in the area. And I know a lot of them voiced their opinion about that. You know, they've been good stewards of the land, putting terraces in, you know, holding back erosion, which if it erodes, it ends up in our streams, creeks, etc. And a lot of them voiced their opinion. They felt that should be reinstated, if not all, half. And that was most of the calls I had this week. I think I had about 6 of them, that area farmers. I think they probably talked to Sandy maybe also. I'm not sure. She shakes her head no, so I guess they didn't. But they had my cell number, I will say. So fielded, like I say, quite a few calls, and they all had good points with that. And I know some of them had been recipients in the past of the cost share program. So and also I do appreciate you guys helping with the tough decisions we did have to do. I mean, it's never fun to cut anybody, and we did come to an agreement going forward, and I'm okay with publishing it too, Phil.
Yeah, Dean, I had a few discussions about it. I know that Hayes Post had ran an article, and so I did have a few people reach to me about it, and I kind of just reiterate, I think, maybe if we look in the future at that in a needs basis, I would be a little more accustomed to it based on needs, and if it were cost share where the landowner needed to come up with a certain portion, I would probably be a little more susceptible to funding for it. The thing I like about the need basis is that I think about people who every day in this building pay their bill on their car, and in that month they struggle to get their electricity bill paid because they have to cover their car tag. The last thing I would want is to ask those people to encumber a tax for someone who may have millions of dollars in the bank for us to help update their private property. So that was my only problems with it, although I do see the benefit as a county as a whole over the long to take care of land, to take care of our resources that will be a long-term benefit to all of us in Ellis County, that the farmers do that. Those were the discussions I had, and I would agree with you. That was one thing that was something I got a few discussions on. But I think after discussing the low dollar amount that it was and the number of years that had been in service, hopefully, over those years we had taken advantage of it and kind of taken care of those things as we look into the future.
Yeah, I think there's ongoing projects in that program, year round. I don't know how many they fund on average, but that's an ongoing, situation year round on that for just conservation in itself. And it affects whether it's the small farmer that farms 200 acres or the large farmer that farms a couple thousand acres, but it affects them all in different ways.
Well, likewise, I heard from some farmers too, and as I discussed the issue with them, I was certain that every outside agency we cut funding to could have made a passion plea for more money. They're all good agencies who perform good services for the county. None are necessarily better than the others, even though we do have to try to prioritize some. But it's just the way it is right now. I mean, a little we can change, we just can't change it.
Mm-hmm. Anything
think-
else, guys?
I think the nice thing we can publish and let people kind of have their last say of what they think we did wrong.
Go forward.
Alrighty, well, if there are no changes, then we will proceed to publish and look forward to having the budget hearing on August the 12th.
And since it's the Phil show, you're on again.
Move on to the county administrator report. So I have a few items to mention this evening. The regional household hazardous waste program, your commission previously approved adding or polling the members of the group to see if they want to add Osborne County to that. And so now staff has sent out a ballot, and of course we're a member, so we got a ballot. So I'm assuming you all want to add Osborne County. So I'll ask the chair to sign that ballot. I also asked the chair to sign the management representation letter for the auditors. I am very pleased to report that we did get our application for federal build grant funding submitted for the Northwest Business Corridor. As the commission is aware, the grant application deadline is today. We confirmed receipt of that by the feds at 5:58 on Friday night, and this morning we're informed that it was transmitted to the U.S. Department of Transportation for review. Just some final numbers. We've been, when the commission approved this last week, we were in some very round numbers, so I have some specific numbers. The project totals $10,787,131. The county's match amount will be $857,426.20, and we are asking for a grant in the amount of $8,629,704.80. Speaking of things I am pleased to report, the timber box structure on 230th was removed today, and Public Works crews feel that they will be able to go back in starting Wednesday morning with the corrugated metal pipe. So as a reminder, 230th is closed this week. They hope to have it open Friday. In the vein of things I am not so pleased to announce, I was informed this afternoon that a former Register of Deeds for Ellis County passed this week. Her name was Roseanne Rupp. She served as Register of Deeds from 1985 through 2001. I believe services are pending, so I'll provide more information when we have it. And the final item I had for this evening, I was asked today by a local resident if the commission would like to consider regulating towing of vehicles from private property. There is a provision of state law that allows counties to do that by resolution. And so I told this person I would bring that up to you and see if there was any interest in further discussion of that. So that's all I have for this evening.
Any questions for Phil?
None for me, Phil.
Dustin, anything?
I'll just reiterate, you don't want to go down 230th right now. You will be in an accident. There's a big hole there, so.
Mm-hmm. Move on to county commission reports. Butch?
Received a call this week from Tom Frost at the Fair Board, and I'm going to be going out to the fair on Thursday and be judging the Legos competition.
There you
So
go.
that'll be a first for me.
That's good. I can send my 11-year-old along. He builds them every day, so I can send him with you.
He probably knows what he's doing more than I do.
Dustin?
Yes.
I had a meeting with Alan Cobb and representatives Wassinger, Waymaster, Rogers, a few local business owners, a couple utility representatives at Gella's the other day. The meeting was put on by the Kansas Chamber. The discussion that we had was about taxation in Kansas and the best way to make it optimal for growth of an economy. And so basically the Kansas Chamber is trying to put out a report, a very comprehensive report, about 180 pages, from a consultant that has done these reports in multiple states, and they go on a state-by-state basis to see the best way that they think that you can make a tax policy that works. It was a neat discussion. The individual that was there that is working for the consulting firm is from Illinois, and he talked to us a little bit about what I would call a property tax traps. This is what happens in southern Chicago and things like that. You get manufacturing facilities, and it's expensive for the manufacturing facilities to move, so they keep bumping their property tax and bumping their property tax until eventually they try to sell the property and leave the state, and then they can't get the property sold because the property tax levy is nearly a quarter of what the building's worth an entire year. So we discussed consumption taxes. It's some stuff that I think I'll bring to our sales tax discussion, and I had to answer some interesting questions about what are counties using their money for and things like that, so it was a great discussion. It was nice to have the representatives there, especially some that are on the tax committee, but also it's something I think that we keep in the back of our heads when we talk about trying to grow Ellis County and try to get our manufacturers to expand in Ellis County and stuff like that. So great discussion, and I really appreciate them letting me be along with that. Obviously, when I'm in a room, neither of you two can be in a room, so that's probably why you didn't get the invite, but it was a good discussion with some business owners and influencers in the whole area. But that's what I had going on this week.
Sounds good. I guess I had a boring week. I am too, helping with the Ellis County Fair Friday and Saturday night. I guess I'm running the front end loader for the monster trucks, so I guess that's my contribution for the fair Friday and Saturday night. So
I'll probably have my 2-year-old out there, so we'll know who to yell at.
there you go. Other than that, I believe that's all. We will adjourn at 5:37. Thank you all for coming.